Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's second video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video, which will take us to around the 8th of April. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles, which runs to a couple of weeks. We'll begin by having a look at what's happening in the stratosphere over North Part, having a look at that for a little while. Just say that JMA Friday was released earlier on today, so that's your month-ahead look ahead. With Japanese and CFS VTMARs. It looks like high pressure is going to be moving towards Scandinavia, so maybe some easterly winds for April. But have a look at JMA Friday and see what's going on. Actually, we'll probably cover that in this video update as well, because we may get some easterlies as early as around a week's time. But starting off with the stratosphere first of all, so this is the latest situation in terms of the stratospheric temperature at 10 HPA, which is one of the top levels of the atmosphere over stratosphere. This is from the JMA. So the grey line here is a trend line for this point of the year. The black line shows how temperatures have been performing throughout the season, going all the way back to September last year. So there's a sudden stratospheric warming that occurred around Christmas and New Year. That was the main storyline of the winter, of course, that big sudden stratospheric warming around Christmas. That didn't lead to all that much in the way of northern blocking, but we did get a colder second half to January. Well, after that, it was downhill all the way with those stratospheric temperatures, and as we went through February and into March, had a really cold, almost record-breakingly cold temperatures at 10 HPA over the stratosphere, and that's where we are right now. So things have lifted up. The temperature has lifted up from that extremely cold temperature around -80 that we had in the stratosphere 10 HPA in the early part of March. Temperatures have recovered a little bit, but still under average, actually, still quite substantially colder than average. Remember, the grey line is where we should be at this time of year. So at this point of the year, end of March, we should be kind of like there, somewhere around -50 to -40. So we're actually around -60. So still substantially colder than you would expect. And interestingly, that black line's actually ticked down a little bit over the last few days. See that very little downwards tick just there, indicating temperatures have turned a little bit colder again at exactly the time they should be warming up. If you go a little bit lower down to 30 HPA, that's closer to the stratosphere. Even there, we do, to the troposphere, I should say, even there, we do have a much colder than average stratospheric temperature still, somewhere between around -70 and -60. The lowest point with that was getting close to around -75 back earlier in March. Again, the grey line is a trend for this point of view. So this temperature in the stratosphere over North Pole is still quite substantially colder than average. This is how the GFS model is forecasting stratospheric temperatures to develop over the next couple of weeks. So we've got these blue colours. Those are the cold temperatures around -60 in the stratosphere at 10 HPA over North Pole. We have now got much warmer temperatures around the edges of the North Pole in the mid-latitudes. Let's run through. We should be expecting to see an end of those blue colours very shortly, but certainly up to around sort of 6th of April, keeping those temperatures around -60 degrees. So it doesn't look like there's going to be any notable warming of the stratosphere at 10 HPA in the next week. Let's go beyond that into the extended range. And then we do see temperatures begin to lift up a little bit. So we're not truly getting rid of those blue colours, but certainly they are losing their intensity. So in sort of week 2, going up to around the middle of April, we're lifting the temperature up to around sort of -50. That kind of level. Let's go back here and see how that relates to the average for early April. So in early April, which is just here, you would expect to be seeing the temperature in the stratosphere at 10 HPA between around -40 and -50. So it should be somewhere around sort of -45. So even this temperature just here, around -50, somewhere around there, even that will be a little bit colder than average still, up to the middle part of April. So certainly at the middle of April, it looks like we're going to keep these temperatures in the stratosphere at 10 HPA colder than average. Not as cold as they are at the moment. It looks like after a week of very cold temperatures around -60, we'll see them lifting up to around -50. That will still be a little bit below average. There's still no genuine sign of an end to those cold temperatures, and consequently still no genuine end to the polar vortex yet. These are, or this I should say, is from weatheriscool.com. It's showing the zonal westerlies. So I had a little bit of a brain block there. It's showing the zonal westerlies over the North Pole. So the blue, there's lots of different coloured lines here, and I haven't got time to go through all of them, but the black line, that's kind of like the trend. So at this point of the year, as temperatures should be warming up in the stratosphere at 10 HPA, so the zonal westerlies should be weakening. We should see a weakening of the zonal westerlies indicated by the black line declining. The blue line shows how the zonal westerlies, the strength of them, have been performing through this season. So as we have the southern stratospheric warming around the turn of the year, the zonal westerlies collapsed. We had a reversal, in fact, of the zonal westerlies going underneath that 0 line just there. The zonal westerlies did reverse, which normally would lead to northern blocking, but this year it didn't particularly, certainly not our side, certainly not on our side of the pole anyway. Since then, the zonal westerlies have powered up, and of course we have had, with this very cold stratospheric temperature, we've had really strong zonal westerlies as well through February and into March. That's where we are right now with the zonal westerlies. So they have reduced compared to where they were earlier in March. That's where the zonal westerlies were earlier in March. Very, very strong, record-breakingly strong zonal westerlies. That's where zonal westerlies are right now. So they have reduced, similar to the stratospheric temperature. The stratospheric temperature has increased, but the stratospheric temperature is still a lot colder than average. And the zonal westerlies have weakened, but they are still stronger than average. We should be around there with the zonal westerlies now. GFS ensembles are forecasting that in the next week or so, if anything, next few days, zonal westerlies actually become a little bit stronger. Can you believe that? Is really unusual for the end of March and early April to see the zonal westerlies getting stronger. So that's very unusual. But after that, it's only lasts a couple of days. After that, the zonal westerlies carry on their trend downwards. Although even in 2 weeks' time, just as in 2 weeks' time, the GFS is forecasting the temperature at 10 HPA to still be cold on average. So the GFS ensembles are still forecasting the zonal westerlies to be stronger than average. Still not getting down to trend. CFS, which is indicated by the pink and blue lines, they do get back to trend by the end of April, but it takes a very long time for them to do it. So it looks like April is going to remain with strengthened zonal westerlies, certainly stronger than average, and quite a cold temperature, certainly for the first half month anyway, at 10 HPA. So this really strong westerly zonal flow looks like it's set to continue for certainly the next couple of weeks anyway. Right, let's get on with the forecasting part of the video then. So that's brought you up to date with everything that's happening in the stratosphere. So these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at London today. So we're starting off milder than average, pleasantly spring-like out there this afternoon. Over weekend, the temperatures are going to lower, going to cool off over weekend, but not particularly cold. Early next week, we have now firmed up on things going quite cold through the early middle part of next week. A clear drop in temperature through the early and middle part of next week. Could even be cold enough for some snow up in the north around the middle of next week. More on that in a moment. Then after that, the temperature returning close to average. Although there's no sign of going back to anything particularly warm actually now, until like the very end of the ensemble, when it does go a little bit above average. That's taking us towards the end of April, but it's a really way off. Looks a little bit more unsettled as well now, I have to say. So the next few days generally dry through to the early part of next week, but then after that becoming more unsettled through next week. So becoming more showery and becoming colder. There's, as I said, potential for a little bit of snow up in the north. Temperature anomalies from the 29th of March to the 6th of April, generally a little bit below average. So you haven't seen that for quite a while. Cold and average temperatures coming up in the week ahead. That's quite a change on what we've had recently. Precipitation anomalies from the 29th of March, 6th of April, still driving average. I would expect these will trend a little bit more unsettled over the next couple of days. GFS 6 o'clock run looks like this. We're under high pressure on Monday, generally, but it will be cooler by the early part of next week. Then this low pressure forces its way through the country into Tuesday. That brings a band of maybe quite heavy rain even into the south and southeast. And behind it, we start to pull in colder air from the north and the northwest. Winds turning to the north through the middle of next week, so that's going to turn things quite a lot colder. Certainly chance of some snow up in the north, and heavy showers, heavy April showers, maybe with hail, thunder and sleet and snow over northern hills. Through the second half of next week, we've got low pressure sort of dumbbelling around the country. That'll be bringing further showers. Notice heights are rising across Scandinavia. This is something we was picking up on with JMA Friday, the chance of some easterly winds towards the end of next week. In fact, that's how we are at day 10, which is Monday the 8th of April. We are pulling in more of a sort of northeasterly wind there. Possibly cold enough to bring some wintry showers onto the eastern coast. Certainly will be very grey, very gloomy type conditions. Anything off the North Sea in April is going to be pretty grim, going to produce a lot of cloud and mist and murk, damp conditions really, and pretty chilly feel as well. In more extended range, high pressure starts to build through the country, so that looks like a little bit of a return to spring into the second week of April, although it's not long before that high pressure is back on the move. And as we get through to the very end of the GFS run, which is steady the 14th of April, we're actually turning winds into the north again, so colder northerly winds are returning. GFS parallel run, again, high pressure dominates through to the beginning of next week, but it will be cooler. Then we get that shot of pretty cold air from the north through the middle of next week. Could certainly be cold enough for snow showers up in the north. Low pressure sort of dumbbelling around the country into the second half next week, bringing showers or longer spells of rain. Possibly the chance of something a little bit wintry too. The air on the northern side of this low pressure is quite cold, drawing that in from northern sort of Europe. And then more extended range into next weekend, we get these easterly winds. We pick up these easterly winds. Again, this is something JMA Friday was picking up on, a proper easterly there, moving up towards day 10. Again, that will drag in a lot of cloud, probably damp, murky conditions, maybe colder fluid of snow over higher ground too. Real easterly there at day 10. If we had that in January, that would have been a bitterly cold easterly. Look where the air is originated from. The air with the isobars originates from up there, and it's running around the bottom of the high pressure like that. So that comes off in January. That's going to be bitterly cold. The air's coming out of Svalbard. As it is, just going to be pretty chilly, pretty grim conditions really for day 10 with the GFS parallel run. And notice low pressure is to our south as well. So with this kind of pattern, the wettest conditions are likely to be in the south, actually. The driest conditions are likely to be in the north. Going into extended range, we start to bring low pressure in from off the Atlantic. Still this high pressure over Scandinavia, though. And we're beginning to bring up warmer air from southern parts of the, or central parts of the Atlantic Ocean as well. So it's starting to turn less cold there at the end of the GFS parallel run. ECM has high pressure dominating for Monday before low pressure brings a band of rain and then colder temperatures on Tuesday. Northerly winds to Wednesday, that could bring snow showers to northern parts of the country. Those northerly winds lasting to Thursday as well. I wouldn't expect snow down across lowland southern England, but certainly there could be hill snow and maybe snow to lower levels across parts of northeast England and Scotland with that kind of pattern. Heading up towards day 10, we have low pressure slinking away to our south. High pressure is building over Scandinavia. That's starting to turn the wind into the east. That's how we look at day 10. So I've got a ridge over Scandinavia, a ridge in the Atlantic. Between the two, we're pulling in these pretty chilly east or northeast winds, probably with more showers as well. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today at day 10 from the postage stamps at the Icelandic Met Office. This is for 240 hours away, day 10, the 8th of April. So we've got 32 members of the ECM ensembles, including the control and operational ECM runs with high pressure up over Scandinavia, and low pressure is out to, let's change the colour, low pressure is out to our west and south, so these are drawing in pretty chilly easterly winds, and as I say, low pressure being blocked off out to the south and to the west. And then there's 19 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure out to the northwest, high pressure down to our southwest. Do have a high pressure over Scandinavia, but it's a lot weaker, and so these are basically bringing in a westerly flow. However, it looks like the majority of ECM ensembles, including the control and operational, do want to build high pressure up over Scandinavia now through the first week of April, and probably give us a spell of pretty chilly easterly winds. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This is for the 13th of April, 360 hours away. So we've got 34 members of the ECM ensembles, including the control. Of course, the operational finishes at day 10. So it's 34 members of the ECM ensembles that have the high pressure to our north and northeast. So they're still maintaining a blocking signal, still bringing in the wind from the east. So mainly dry, but probably quite chilly. And then there's 17 with high pressure, kind of like ridging through the country, but also going to our east. They're dry as well. Probably a slightly warmer option. I think they'd be bringing the winds up more south of east, if anything. But it does look as though high pressure to our east-northeast could be quite a important player, certainly through the first half of April. Finally, let's just see what CFS is showing for April itself. So this 700 millibar height anomaly for April 2019. At the moment, it's going for a ridge to be extending through the Atlantic into the UK and then heading up towards the east as well. So a very anticyclonic signal. Low pressures around Greenland, Iceland, jet streams up there. So a very high pressure dominated signal for April. Could be a notably dry month. However, the temperature anomaly isn't anything particularly exciting. It's actually close to maybe hinting at being a little bit cooler than average. Not sure about that, but it is certainly isn't a big deviation. And if anything, we're probably favouring drier conditions as well, although it's not a strong anomaly. You see all these drier than average conditions to our south and southwest. Looks as though we're favouring perhaps a notably dry anticyclonic April. But maybe not all that warm. Maybe those easterly winds will, certainly in the first half of the month anyway, be a bit on the chilly side. We'll have to see. Anyway, coming back to the next week to 10 days. So, going to be getting colder, it looks like, next week. Going to start off mainly dry. Then we're going to get that band of rain on Tuesday. It introduces northerly wind, which will probably be cold enough to produce snow showers up in the north, especially over high ground, but maybe not exclusively so. Heavy rain showers with hail and thunder elsewhere through the middle of next week, and then possibly tilting the wind into the east through the second half next week and into the first weekend of April. That might bring in some pretty gloomy, chilly weather, and again, you wouldn't rule out a chance of a little bit of hail snow maybe with that as well. So after what has been a really warm couple of months for February, March, looks like things are getting a bit colder for April. Right, come back tomorrow when we're going to have a weekend forecast and a week to 10-day video update. But we'll start off tomorrow with the first seasonal model roundup for the summer of 2019. So we're going to get all the long-range models together for the first time this season, see what they're all showing for the summer. It's a really nice afternoon out there for most of us, so given what the outlook is for next week, I'll get outside and make the most of it if you like it. Right, that's all for now. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.